Hi everyone, welcome back to the Spirit Lounge. I hope you guys are having a great day, weekend, whatever you guys are up to. So this is the next chapter in the Nag Hammadi texts, and the next one is the Book of Thomas. So what we'll do, we'll just get straight into that. So I'll bring up the PowerPoint presentation. There we go. Okay, if you have any questions, do read them in the chat window. But I'll go through this. It was a short chapter, but there was a lot in it actually, and couldn't skip too much because it was a good chapter. It wasn't delving into the other mythology of Sophia and and the other stories that we've been encountering. So the Book of Thomas. This was stated as a almost complete text in that it wasn't a lot missing from it, and a lot of it could be translated almost entirely, with some small pieces here and there, but almost entirely. It's a dialogue between Jesus and Judas Thomas, who was also named Thomas, post-resurrection, and then pre-Jesus moving on, or moving away from the form in which, or the state in which he presented himself. And this states that Thomas was a true companion, not in the companion in the largest sense, but companion in the spiritual companion, a brother, a twin, cascading the message to others. Described as a disciple, and this talks to ascetic. This talks to passing the message on to the ascetic, the impure, and the lost masses. It does talk about moving away from flesh and sexuality, but not actually implicitly. It talks about that, it refers to it as fire, and what that really means is just desire driven, bodily attachment, material attachment, falling in love with the image in the mirror. That's what it really means. Envices the metaphysical, so it talks about the revealing and the presence of the metaphysical and the ethical. Dualism, i.e. the negative and positive, the material and the spiritual, and the psychical. It doesn't thankfully shift into the myth of the creation of the worlds with the demiurge and the era of Sophia, thankfully. But more talks about the dualism of the body versus the soul, which is actually the foundational truth, and all of the aspects and stories are built upon that. And as I mentioned, the fire of sexual passion versus the tranquility of wisdom. This is taken from the book itself and the editors and the authors, and it's a dialogue which was documented by another Matthias, who was walking alongside. So let's go straight into this. Okay, the first one, hidden sayings. The hidden sayings that the Saviour spoke to Judas Thomas, which I, Matthias, in turn recorded. I was walking, listening to them speak to each other, or with each other. The next, Jesus speaks with Brother Thomas. This is Judas. Brother Thomas, I shall reveal to you what you have thought in your heart, how you exist, how you will come to be. You have understood that I am the knowledge and of truth. You will be called one who knows himself, for those who have not known themselves have nothing, but those who have known themselves already have acquired knowledge, seen what is hidden from people, and those who don't see it stumble against it in their ignorance. This is effectively talking about Thomas seeking greater wisdom and knowledge and truth of what truly is. And if you understand knowledge, you are called someone who knows themselves. Who knows themselves means that you are connected with the I, the spirit within. When you know yourself, they're talking about the I am within, the Godhead, the spirit that is within. When you reconnect with that and you emanate and become, then you know thyself, you know thy Father, you know thy which is all that we are. And that's what he's talking about. And it's also referring to what is hidden from people. So it does refer to those that are lost, those who are aware but choose to wander elsewhere, and those who have acquired knowledge and seek rest upon it. There's three types of people, and we'll go into that later. Okay, the hidden and the visible. So this is Thomas, I believe. When I hear, I can speak of it. Truth is difficult to accomplish before people. The Saviour answered, if what is visible is obscure, how can you comprehend it? Truth visible to the world are difficult to accomplish. How will you accomplish things? You are beginners. So this is saying that if you still think it's something too difficult to accomplish, then you are not aware or comprehend it yourself. If you're aware and comprehend it yourself, then passing it on to others is an easier task, and therefore you are not a beginner, you move forward. Thomas then says, tell us about these things. Saviour says, animals are produced, humans are referred to as creatures, animals lusting after other creatures, after lusting after each other. What this effectively means is not referring to us as animals or seeing us as creatures, but it's saying that we are material. We operate in our lower chakra energies, our serpent energy of desire and materialism, the body, the mind, the ego, the desire. And this is what it's saying, that we are creatures, because we are no better than animals some animals who operate better than we. And it says that are above, those that are above do not exist like those that are visible. So this is saying the spirit, when you emanate spirit and behave as the spirit, then you do not behave like an animal. Rather live from their own root. Their own root is the spiritual source, the grace and you becoming of it. Their corpse nourish them. The visible feed on creatures like them. So this is not referring to eating animals. It means that we feed on other ignorance. We feed upon ignorance, feeds upon ignorance, upon human material life. We feed upon each other within a human material life, and are subject to change. They will perish and will be lost. Lost means obsessed by the material. The animal body perishes. Those modelled forms also perish. What this means is when the body perishes, when we leave this existence, if you've attached to the modelled form of that body and you've realised yourself as nothing else but that, then that state of being and awareness also perishes. The body is from intercourse. How can it give birth to anything different? So it's saying the body is from intercourse from two bodies, physical from physical. How can it be anything different than just physical and material? So children until you become perfect, which means we are all children on a path until we become aware, or as it's referred to as perfect, which means that we detach from the body rather than attach, and from the image that we see in the mirror, that we fall in love with, or some people fall in love with. We need to detach from this and attach to our inner self. It's not quite demonizing sexual intercourse as the precursor chapter, description chapter, preface describes. It's actually talking about, when it talks about intercourse, it's talking about the physical to physical, the material to the material. It's not demonizing it actually, if you read it. And Thomas says, what is invisible is difficult to explain. And Jesus says, it is through light that light exists. Absolutely true. It says, yes, when you discover the self, that light shows the way. There is no external light. So through the discovery of the spirit, through the reattachment to your true self, as a personal journey, that connection emanates light and shows you the path. So that's what it means. Through light, that light exists. So through the inner light, when you're attached to that, you see through light an illuminated path before you. Thomas, why does this visible light rise and set? Jesus says, light has shone not to keep you here, but that you might leave. So this effectively means you realize the loss of attachment to the body. So what it's talking about is, why does visible light exist and rise and set? Well, it's there so that you realize it. You discover the futility and the dualism of it, which is asking you and moving ourselves to move to the within. So that means that's why it says not to keep you here, but that you might leave. What that means is that you leave the attachment to this, the identification and the love of this, and you move into, and you leave that attachment, and you detach from it, and you attach to the spirit. So therefore you leave the material, the body, the animal, the creature, and you attach, and you leave, and you exist presence within the spirit. So this, as I've said, is you realize the loss of attachment to the body, the image, and desire and attachment. They lay down their animal nature. This light will withdraw up to its being, welcome it to itself. Exactly what we just said. We withdraw away from the animal nature. We withdraw up to its being. What does that mean? Up to its being means the light. We withdraw up to, into our light, and then the light welcomes us. I found this chapter much more important, because it wasn't a story, a metaphorical story. It was real. This is truth as it should be said. The Saviour then said, unsearchable love of light, and also the duality, the bitterness of fire, the fire being desire, and then the love of light, which is the spirit. The desire, material attachment, and want is the bitterness of fire. You blaze in the bodies of people, night and day, minds drunk and their souls deranged. That everyone who seeks truth from true wisdom will fashion wings to fly, fleeing the passion, which means once you've discovered the self, you fly into more illuminated thought, and the path reveals itself, and you flee from the fire, which is desire, material attachment, and want, which means that you move away from it. One will fashion wings to flee from every visible spirit. What this means is it's a spiritual path in our internal. It's not living in a cave. There's some spelling mistakes there. What this means is that we don't seek to remove ourselves from society and people entirely. How you go into a mountain and live in a cave. What this is talking about is as you go into yourself, and as you move into your spiritual self, you will, through this movement, as it progresses and expansion moves, no longer see attraction to those that you've left behind spiritually. You'll have moved on to a different state of perception and expansion, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and etherical. And those friends that you have, you will still be friends, but you will have little in common with them because you've moved forward. They're still in the material. You've moved away from that. And therefore you will seek more isolation. You will seek others will come in to match the frequency in which you emanate. And therefore you will expand out. You'll spend more time with the self. You'll spend more time with those who are in frequency with your movement, and less time with those who are not. Keep these sayings. If not, the name for you is ignorance. So it's saying if you don't absorb what is being taught, then you remain ignorant. It says an intelligent person cannot associate with a fool. To the fool, good and evil are the same. Some people have wings. They rush towards visible things. They shine with a perishable beauty and dark delight. This is the third type. This is what I was saying, is those who know, those who have knowledge, those who understand the truth, but have decided, remember, the light, the understanding the universe and the energy of the all can be used for grace and can be used for the opposite of grace. And this is talking about those who have decided for the downward movement of that light, and have decided to move into the beauty of power, desire, domination, lust, control, and the other darker, more satanic leanings of people, and they've gone towards using that awareness of light, but using it and moving towards the dark duality of all possibility that exists should you be drawn to those things. And this is what that means. It's blind with insatiable desire, which is what we just discussed. It leads them according to their wish. Wish is free will. A wish is their tendency. I'll go through universal law again in a moment after this, and just remind everyone what that means. Tendency is the thing that you bring with you in all your lifetimes and incarnational experiences in this universe, and it will be present still until you overcome and bring the opposite of what is the lower chakra desires and replace that with more light, with moving towards true grace. So this is their wish. They have a tendency to draw downward. They have always been drawn downward. There goes the second sentence. It's repeating tendencies. Blessed is the wise person who has sought truth and rested upon it forever. Rested means allowing the light to engulf in that pleroma and that fullness that previous chapters discussed. It's great. It's a great section. I love this section. Our own and others. This is long. Thomas says, is it beneficial to rest among our own? The Saviour says, yes. This is what we were discussing before. As you move forward, you will rest, or you'll find isolation with self, or rather rest within self as you expand privately and personally in the journey of the self. But also others will come in, so you will rest with them. You will commune more with them than those that have not made that movement with you. It is beneficial to rest with our own. Saviour said, yes, it is good for you. Things visible will pass away. Live in the same physical, but two different realms of existence. This is true. As you move into, and it's particularly apparent in this world today, if you are of dominance over your perception from the self, if you are not allowing fear to enter, if you are one whose ego has been tempered, balanced, if you are one who has moved away from mind but moved within towards your grace in your heart, your mind and the body as a trinity, then you can live in the same world as others who are not moving into this vibration and frequency. Remember, everything is vibration and frequency, and you will experience what is mapping to your vibration and frequency. If it's low, you will have fear, anxiety. You will draw towards the things that attract that out of those frequency, and your life will be enveloped in that. Your experience of the life within the same community, within the same room, will be different to someone who's elevated above. So you can live in the same physical world, but have a very, very different realm of existence. Flesh will pass away. It will come to be among visible things. Because of the love they once had, they will be gathered back to the visible realm. What does this mean? This is talking about reincarnation. Incarnate as attached, drawn to material, we impose reincarnation on ourselves, we draw into an illusion. What this statement is saying is that if we have attachment and love for something material, or the love of knowledge but driven downward towards the lower frequencies of domination lust, and we have that, when the flesh passes away, we will draw ourselves back. We will draw ourselves back into the realm in which we love, to which we are attached, to which the illusion in which we identify. So we move ourselves. Incarnation is our own volition. Incarnation is driven by ourselves. And this is telling you this. The attachment you have will draw yourself back into incarnational life, into an experience of your choice, but into material life. Among the invisible things, we impose incarnation in ourselves. Okay, among the invisible things, those who can see will perish. Without the first love, in their concern for burning fire, sheer-foot phantoms will come to dwell forever in the midst of the times on corpses. So this is talking about those who know, and who are drawn towards darker practices, and satanic serpent energies will draw themselves into that space. So you either can be lost, sort of just identifies with the physical, distracted constantly, doesn't know anything about the body and the image in the mirror, be drawn into incarnation. Those who do know, those who have knowledge but drawn to the lower, what it says here, without first love. This means that they know, but they have decided to go towards the lower frequencies. This is their love. They haven't gone between the first love, which is the divine, is the first love. They don't have that. They draw themselves further into their own illusions of shapeless phantoms, what we call demons, demonic energies, the archontic forces. These are things we have created. We manifest this realm of distortion is our own, is manifest by us. If we give it no energy, it doesn't exist, individually or collectively. Thomas, what shall we say to those who are blind? If we had not been born in flesh, we would not have known iniquity. This means iniquity means immoral, unethical behavior, unfair and gross actions. The Saviour says, tell the truth. In this section it does say, regard them as animals. I didn't put that in here, but remember, it's not seeing people as animals. It's referring to, remember the time in which these things are written and the way speech is formed. What it's really saying is we behave like animals. We are detached so far that we are just behaving like creatures. We are Neanderthals in some ways, with iPhones, iPads and nice suits on. So Saviour says animals devour each other, so people devour each other. This is not physically eating, but devour our ego and desires of themselves. Deprive of the kingdom, which is the truth, the spirit. They love the delight of fire, which is desire. They fulfill the desire of their parents. Now, this is not your physical parents. This is the parent in this statement means the parent, not the actual parents, but their own nature and tendency. These are their parents. This is your tendency, your nature, your free will, your leaning to the lower, or your leaning to ignorance, are the parents or the nurturers. The parents are nurturers of the life in which you will live and the illusions in which you will draw yourself repeatedly into. These are the parents. So you fulfill the desire of their parents. The parents is your own leanings, your own desires, your own nurture, your own will, your own leaning, and your own tendencies. Tendencies are repeating patterns of behavior or paradigms. Okay, afflicted by the compulsion of their evil nature, pursue derangement, not realizing their madness, but thinking they are wise. Thomas, what can one do? What can one cast down to them do? Saviour says, what sows and what is sown will pass into their fire. We reap what we sow. After a long time, the fruit of evil trees will appear and be punished and slain in the mouths of animals and people through the agency of the rains, the winds, the air, and the light shining above. What this basically means is that in time, all, as I've changed my splash screen, together we will touch them all. And that means is one of the most important statements that I could ever make and I could ever translate from this, is that in time, everything will return to grace, because that is the only end to all things. And what it means here is that after a long time, fruit of evil trees will appear and be punished and slain by the mouths of animals and through the agency of the rains, the wind and the air. That is the force of the Spirit. All things are slain by the force of grace, of the divine, of our Godhead, of the Spirit within. And this is what slays everything in time. And together we will touch them all means each of us, once we understand the path and become it, and understand what the true meaning is, not walk by the material and the realm of humanity, but the truth. We cascade that through our actions, word, thoughts and intentions by becoming it to others individually, one to another, one to another, to another, to another. And this is how these things are slain, through the winds, the air, and the shining light of our own spirit to each other. This was always the message of Jesus, Yeshua, Isha, was that we cascade the teachings between ourselves, which is what Thomas is saying. How does he pass this on to others and cast this down? Thomas says, we realize in our hearts it is clearly so. How can we go forth and preach them when we are not respected in the world? This was a question. Yeah, it's answered in the following section. Okay, Jesus preaches about judgment. Remember, the judgment is our own. This is, remember how when this was written, don't see it implicitly, read it as for you to understand in a much deeper sense. Savior, whoever listens to your word and turns away will be handed over to the ruler who is on high, over all the powers. So this is referring to what you might call the demiurge energy. And the ruler will cast him down into the abyss, the great depths of Tartarus, which is hell. If he flees to the west, he finds fire. South, there as well. North, fire meets him again. No east to be saved, for he did not find it while embodied, so as to find it on the day of judgment. So what this is saying is, I don't necessarily agree with this statement if it's read and understood in its literal sense, but it's not. The self is of source. We drive ourselves to the infinite path. Eternal light is there for all. Eventually we will draw onto it. We will. The judgment is our own, and we will move into the direction once we leave this bodysuit of ours. If you're attached in mind to the physical, you'll draw yourself into an illusional realm of what we call hell. You'll draw yourself into realms and frequencies that you've attached to and emanated, because you will be out of body, and you will fear will overcome you, and you will draw yourself into what you've believed and attached to. And you can keep yourself there through your own force of will, force of belief. It isn't real, that's why I call it illusion. We draw it to our own illusion. It isn't real. But once we realize ourselves, even out of body, a fractal of ourselves, we can entrap it wherever we wish, temporarily, or what would seemingly be an eternal time, which within the realm of spirit, there is no eternal time. Everything is in the now, but within our experience, within form or otherwise, it could be whatever we think it is. So the message here is to always turn to spirit, even when you know on your dying day, if you have not listened to any teachings at all, always think that, have the thought that you will return to your source, your true source, and you will go there. Okay, woes upon the godless. Then the Saviour continued, woe means sorrow upon those. Woe to you, the godless people, secure in things that do not last, the material. Woe to you who hope in the flesh and in the prison that will perish. The prison is the body, the prison is the identity and attachment to this. And that prison will perish, of course. Your God is this present life where you identify only in what you can see, touch, taste, and hear. Woe to you, the fire! Woe to you with fire, the insatiable! Woe to you because of the smouldering within, the smouldering desire within. Woe to you, prisoners, for you are bound in caves, and that is the caves of the body, and also the caves that you are drawn downward into. You do not perceive your destruction, your plight, nor understood that you dwell in darkness, drunk with fire, desire. Darkness has risen in you like light. Those are lost, and there are those knowing but downward ones. So those are the darkness can also rise like light if you think that is wisdom. Filled your minds with smoke and fire, which is illusion and desire. You love the garment you wear, i.e. the body, gripped by non-existent hope, which is the physical self. You have pursued your own wishes, i.e. desire-driven or material attachment, ego, those kind of attachments. Woe to you who dwell in error, not seeing the light of the sun, which is the inner light. The moon looks down. This statement I put in because it meant something, and it's difficult to become aware of what it means. Moon looks down night and day, seeing the bodies of your slaughters. That means the desires at night revealed in the day. It means that it refers to us attaching ourselves to the more material desires at night. So moon looks down night and day. Well, it does. It's day there, but the moon is shining light on the darkness below. It comes round, it's shining light here where it's dark, but it's also light below. And so it reveals the passions and desires and fulfillment of those who are driven down to those things, who execute those things in the silence and the darkness of the night. And then it's revealed in the day. The sun and the moon will give a fragrant aroma to you, as will the air, the spirit, the earth, and the water. Sun shines on them, they grow strong. Woe to you, for you have not accepted the teachings, and those who wish to accept it will suffer when they preach. Which is true. If you accept it, you'll be demonized by those to whom you share it with, who do not feel the same. Okay, and finally, blessed are you who understand, who flee from things that are alien, i.e. opposite to the Spirit. Blessed are you who are mocked, because you love your master has for you, i.e. you are mocked for the movement towards your inner self that you've taken, that others do not understand or feel is foolish or is an illusion of mind. Watch and pray that you may not remain in the flesh. This means seek to remove yourself from the cycle of incarnation, which in Hinduism is moksha. You may leave the bondage, you will find rest. When you leave the pains and the passions of the body, which is the detachment, you will receive rest from the good one, grace itself. And the final scribal note is, remember me also, my brothers, which is all, it's everything. In your prayers, peace be with the holy and the spiritual. So that was all for that. It was quite a short chapter. I thought it was an impacting one. It had a lot of messages in there, which is really the core message, asking you to look into yourself and attach to that light and follow the path that it offers you. And the more you follow it, you will actually manifest everything that this section has said. You won't need to try. It will just become a natural movement in you. But the hardest thing for us all, is to go into that movement and persist in that movement, because it can be a number of lifetimes for you to achieve that detachment and the bondage that it says to leave that behind. Okay, I thank you for listening to that. And again, the second coming, this is ourselves. What we seek is coming from us. The second coming is our own collective expansion, expressing of the Spirit from within. The salvation is our own becoming. It's the salvation is us doing what I've just described in the chapters that we've reviewed. It's going into your spirit. You are your inner light. You are that connection and grace that you must express outwardly, which then will guide your action, word, thought, and intention and manifestation. To be clothed in a paloma is what is asking us to do, and this, the becoming, is ourselves individually. And as I mentioned, together we will touch them all. Mahanji, this is transformative spirituality, which means Don't follow rituals or gurus, rabbis, priests or popes, because the transformation is yourself and you must become it. If you don't become it, it just becomes a ritual practice of virtuous, self-righteous belief. And I do want to share the thing that the universal laws I was discussing before. And this is the piece I was talking about, the tendency. The universal law which we've described, the tendency here is what drives. We create repeating patterns of behavior, repeating patterns of paradigms. And this is what the text was describing as we draw downward or we remain lost in ignorance. If we keep repeating those tendencies, the reincarnation cycle just continues round and round and round because we force ourselves into that through our own loss of understanding. We can come into the spiritual form, it doesn't mean when we leave it we go. We can draw ourselves to anything that we're attached to. Think of source and light all times, and you will go to the source and light at all times. If you are attached to the illusion, you're attached to lower frequency energy, abhorrent, distorted behaviors, you can draw yourselves to the realms that we created through doing those things. In the astral, you can draw yourselves to those things. And this is your own prison. This is the caves in which this describes we can find ourselves. Okay, so I want to say thank you for listening. I truly appreciate your time as usual, and watch out for the next one. I may actually do another one tomorrow because that chapter seems fairly short too, and it's a long weekend for me over here in the States. So I wish you well, and I want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for your time, and God bless to you all. Thank you.